Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 30 of my How to Make Video Games tutorial series. In this part of the tutorial, I'm going to do something really fun. I love it when you guys ask me a question, and then I can go and create a tutorial to answer that question. And basically, the question I received is how to allow or create the artificial intelligence for a villain to chase a character such as Link around the game board in which that villain is not locked into a specific maze. So it's a free floating area like we are creating in this game. So I will be able to do that. And even better yet, I'm going to write all the code out of my head. And so you'll get to see my thinking process and how we can work our ways through solving problems whenever we're creating games. So I have a lot to do. So let's get into it. Okay, so here we are. And of course, all of the code is available in the description underneath the video. All right, so here we are inside of Unity. If you can't see this, view it full screen. It is an HD video. Now, what we are trying to do here is trying to figure out how to move our villain here around this world. Now, of course, he's going to collide into things, but we have to think about that because that can cause a lot of problems. What if our villain is up here and he is trying to get over here? Well, he's just going to hit this trees right here and not go anywhere. So we could solve this in a bunch of different ways, and all of them could be valid. However, some of them are going to be very machine intensive while other ones will not be. So we could go and create a very elaborate maze type of system and then go and plot the quickest path to Link, for example, and that would be very, very machine intensive, and it would work, but it would be machine intensive, which isn't a good thing. And we could do numerous different things like ray casting and so forth and so on. But what I think I want to do is I want to create a node type system that our villain will travel across. So I want to create nodes in all of the different parts. So let's say I want to get down here to where Link is. I'm going to put a node there, and then I want to have line of sight between all of my different nodes. Now this might not be the best way to solve it, but it's the way that I'm going to do it. And then I'm just going to put nodes all around the entire board, and then I will move from node to node and check with Link to see which node he's the closest to, which is very easy to do, and then move around such as that. So that is my goal. So what am I going to do here? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty, and I'm going to put all my nodes inside of this empty. So I'm going to call this travel nodes. All right, good. And let's go and create another empty and put it in the travel nodes. And I'm going to call this node 0. And to this node, I have to think about what I'm going to need my nodes to be able to do. Well, one thing I need them to be able to do is to be aware of if they're collided with something, such as said villain. So I am going to go and create a collider on all of my nodes. So physics 2D, and let's have it be a box collider is fine. I'm going to set is triggered. Then on top of that, I'm going to want the size to be rather small. I'm just going to say 0.2 right now, just to see if that makes sense. And then I'm also going to want my offset a little bit higher so that my villain will be able to get right around there. So I'm just going to put it as 0.25. All right, and let's see what that looks like. Oh, also on top of that, I'm going to come up here and give it a different type of color. So let's make it orange or something like that. All right, and this guy, the travel nodes, I'm going to have that set for 0, 0. So 0, whoops, I hit the O, 0 and 0. That's set for this. And then this node 0, I'm going to have it set for 1 and 1, which should be right on top of Link's head. And if we look here, we can see that that is indeed where it is. All right, so good stuff. Anything else I'm going to want to do? I'm probably going to want to be able to search for tags. Maybe not. Maybe I will. Don't know. So I'm going to come in here and choose the tag right here. And I'm going to go add tag. And I am going to create a new one, of course. And I'm going to call this villain node and save it. So everything is going to have the villain. All these nodes are going to have the tag villain node. Once again, I'm not certain that I need this, but at the moment I think that it's a good bet. All All right, so I just need to create more of these nodes. So let's say I want to have a node here, line of sight, remember, and then maybe another one up here, and so forth. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to duplicate this guy, and I'm going to give him a different name. I'm going to call him, node 1. And where am I going to place him? I am going to want to place him like right around in this vicinity. So let's say that I want this to be, let's try like 10, 10 and 2. All right, so that looks like it's probably line of sight, and it is 10 and 2. And let's go and duplicate another one, and we'll call this node 2. So node 2, and let's move it into like in this area right here. Remember, line of sight. So let's make that like 5 and 9, and I think that looks about right. And yes, it does. And let's go and create many more. So how many am I gonna need? Let's go just create a whole bunch of these guys. This is going to be node 3, and this will be node 4, and let's try like a 5, 9, something like that. Oh, I did that already, didn't I? Okay, so 5, 9, and that is here, so I'm going to go up here, so that's going to be more like 7, 15, something like that. Let's try it. And so 7 and 15, and there it is. Again, the nodes can see each other, and then we want to put another one like right here. So there might be some tweaking that goes along with this to make sure it's exactly right, but that's okay. And I don't know if it's going to be okay there, or maybe I should put it over just a little bit more. I'm going to leave it there right now, see how it works out. Let's go and duplicate some more of these guys, and like this, and that's going to give me 5. I mean, the goal here is to keep everything as with the least intensive as possible. And very often, the very first thing you think of is something that is extremely machine intensive, and that's almost always a bad idea. So let's get rid of that and make that 8. I don't know how many of these I'm going to need. So that is this guy. So I want this one underneath here. This is 13, 15, and I want to put one like right in this vicinity. So 15, let's try 15, 10, and that looks pretty good. That should be able to hit there. It might hit this wall though. And after this, let's try 15, 3. Just keep a straight line, and it's down there. Then I'm going to put one between the trees right here, and let's try like 22 and 3. Okay, that's good. And another one, 20. Let's try like 24 and 5. That might be okay. And how many more? Let's see if I can do it with 2 more of these guys. So duplicate, and change this to 9, and this one to 10. All right, and we'll have this one be 21 and 9. 21 and 9. Okay, pretty good. And the last one I'm going to put up in the upper right-hand corner, 23 and 13. Good. Okay, so I got all my nodes created, and I think that we have a pretty good idea what's going on. So now what I want to do is I want to get my villain and try to teach him how to move around these nodes. So to do that, I'm going to have to go into scripts and open up villain.cs. All right, so now I need to think about what I need to add to my villains. So some things, well, I definitely want to have an array that's going to contain all of my different nodes. So I'm going to call these villain nodes, and to create that, I just go new, and I'm going to have it just be int, and then I can put a curly bracket, and then I'm gonna have to put in all of the nodes that I have there. So I went and wrote all of those down here in between switching screens, so I can just copy them here off of my piece of paper. So 10 and 2, 5 and 9, 7 and 15, and these are just the locations for all the nodes that you just saw me create, of course. And there you go, there's all of them. If you want to pause your screen to type those in, whoops, there you go, now you can do that. I just didn't want to keep talking to myself. All right, so what else am I gonna need? Well, I might find it useful to have access to the current node that our villain would be on, and that would be like 2 is the closest one, so I'm just going to put that in there. I then also want to track the target node, which would be where he's going to go to, and I'm going to put int and target node and have that be 2. So let's change this from current node. Let's make that 1 and then 2. So he's like bouncing around in between those 2 nodes. And I can't think of anything else that I need. So let's think about what else we need to do with this to make it work. Well, in the awake area, I can't think of anything I need, but inside of fixed updates, I can think of some things that I'm going to need to add inside of here. I think I also want to get rid of this and have that be inside of update as well. So rather than deleting it, what I'm going to do is just comment it out and, you know, we'll figure something else out. All right, so what's the logic here that I want to, basically I want to make it work, and then later in this tutorial or in the next tutorial, I'll have it automate. So I want to make it work first though. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say that if a certain key is pressed on, that I want to get key and up. So what I want to do is I'm going to say if I press F, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm sort of debugging my way through this. So if they press F in that situation, I want to go forward. And if they press B, I want them to go backwards. Why is it doing that? Let's see here. All right, so let's go and let's just copy this and down inside of here, and I'm going to say F and B. So this is going to work this way. So what do I have to do here? Well, I definitely want to not go, try to go to a node that is greater than 10. So I'm going to say if and target node, and this is hardwired in here. You might prefer to instead get the length of your array, but I'm going to just do it this way because it's going to work exactly the same for everything else. Then what do I want to do? Well, whenever the F is pressed, as long as I still have another node to go to, well, I want to increment through my villain nodes. So I'm going to say my target node is going to be equal to target node plus 1. Okay, so there's that. What else am I going to want to do? Well, I need to move my villain to that node. So I'm going to create a function that I'm going to call go forward to node. So I'm going to go forward to node. So I'm just logically just thinking out, what do I want to do? And I'll create that here in a moment. What else am I going to need? I can't think of anything else. So let's go and figure out what we're going to do with the B also. So I'm basically just going to do the opposite. So I'm going to paste this inside of here, and I'm going to say while target node is greater than 0, because 0 is my maximum 1, I'm going to decrement. Okay, pretty simple stuff. And then go forward to node, and everything else is pretty great right there. Okay, so we got that all set up. And now what I need to do is just figure out exactly how I'm going to make go forward to node. How am I going to move my villain so that it will go forward to the next node? So I have to create this function right here. And is it going to return anything? I don't think so. So let's just paste that inside of there. And is it going to receive anything? I can't think of anything it needs to receive. All right, so go forward to node. How are we going to make it move there? Well, I need to find out first if I am already at my target node, because in that situation, I don't want to go forward. So I'm going to create that in a function also. I'm going to say at target node, and I like to break these into multiple different functions. So what do I got to do here? Well, I'm going to, you know what, it might actually make more sense for me to create at target node first so that I can think about how I'm going to do this part. So how am I going to check if I am at my target node? Well, this is going to return a bool, and is it going to receive anything? I can't think of anything that it's going to need. All right, so how do I check if my current position of my villain is at the target node? It's rather simple. I just go if and transform and position x is equal to, and then I need to access my array that I have, and then I'm going to go target node 0 is going to give me the x value inside of my multidimensional array. And I'm going to say and I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to use the y in this situation. So this is going to tell me if I am indeed at the target node that I'm aiming to get to. And then 1 is going to give me the other value, the y, the y value, of course. And I'll return true in that situation. And otherwise, I will return false. So there we go. We created that guy. What else am I going to need? Well, remember I got rid of this guy up here, so I am going to go and set this inside of my update function down here. So let's go and do that also. So I'm just going to, I don't have updates set up inside of here already, do I? No, I do not. All right, so let's just do that. So I'm going to say void update. And I'm just, all the update functions I'm going to do is get the rigid body and change the velocity on it to be equal to the direction. All right, so I got something else done, so that's good. Now let's come back up inside of this guy and let's try to think through, go forward to node and let's try to figure out what we're going to do based off of how we know at target node works. So I'm saying that if I'm not at the target node, then I want to move towards it. So what I want to do is I want to define the target X and Y position. So I'm going to say vector2 and target position is going to be equal to new vector2 and villain and nodes. I'm going to access that array and target node, and this is going to give me my XY position. And the only thing is I want to subtract my current position of my villain from that. So I'm going to go minus transform dot position and X. Okay, so that's going to give me my new target position that I want to move to. And then I'm going to do basically the same thing for my Y position also. So let's come in here and let's just copy this guy and jump down here and paste this in. And this is going to be target node. And remember, we're going to need 1 to get the Y value. And then we are going to subtract Y from this. So that is going to give me that. All right, so we got our target that we're aiming for. So now what are we going to do? I'm going to just set my direction to it. So we can say directions equal to target position. And there we go. All right, so that's where we are going to be moving towards. See all these functions nice and short, and that's a good thing. And now I want to come down inside of Ontriggerenter. And what I'm going to do inside of here, I'm going to do this outside of this area right here, is I'm going to check if my villain collided with a villain node. So I'm going to say if, and the thing I collided with, tag is equal to villain node. Well, in that situation, I am going to come in and check if I collided with the target node that I'm aiming to get to. And if I did, well, in that situation, I'm going to stop movement on my villain until the next F is pressed, and I'll be able to get to the next one. Or I'll go towards the next one. And I'm going to use the same exact thing again, target node, X value, and, or actually this is going to, X value was reading out of, or thinking out of my head and not thinking with my head. All right. And I'm going to also check the same thing for the Y value, of course. So let's come in here, do that, paste that down there, and check for Y. So that is the villain's position, and 1 is going to give me the node that I have. And I'm going to, in the situation in which I do hit my target node, I'm going to say that my direction is going to be equal to vector3 dot 0. And that is going to bring my villain to a complete stop. All right. So I have all that set up, and I think I will now be able to traverse our little area here with my villains. So I'm going to hit play inside of here, and you can see the villain go. I'm going to go forward. Whoop, he moved a little bit weird. So let's try that again. Play, and I'm going to go forward. Good. Back. Good. Back. Good. And he's moving, and then I can go forward again, and forward. I'm just hitting the F button, and forward, and forward, and forward. Yep, he did hit that, but he went through it. And there's some tweaking involved here, but what my major goal is just to make this all work. And everything looks like it's working pretty well. And there is literally like no calculations being done. Definitely not in regards to using raycasts or using gigantic arrays that I try to float through. So you can see that my villain is able to go from node to node to node and pretty much cover the entire board. All right, it's awesome. So now the goal is to be able to get my villain to find Link. And to do that, once again, I'm going to have to jump over and write some more C code or C# code inside of villain.ts. All right, so what am I going to need to do or change inside of the code? Well, I have to think about some additional different values I want to track. So basically what I want to do is I want to be able to find out which node Link is the closest to. So to do that, I'm going to create an array of game objects, and I'm going to call it villain and node, GOS, for game objects. And I will fill that in time. What else am I going to need? I'd also like to store the node that Link is closest to once I find what it is, so that the villain will now have a new target node that it needs to go to. So I'm going to go node. So that's going to hold Link's closest node. And as far as I know, that's all I'm going to need for that. And because I am going to be moving through this slowly and checking as I am going, I'm going to come after this and I'm just going to output Link's position. So I'm going to say Link's closest node game object is going to be equal to, and I'm going to create a function that's going to find out. And it's going to be Link's closest node is going to be the name of the function that I'm going to be calling for. And let's make this uppercase, of course. Link's closest node. And whenever I get that information, I am going to go and output it. Well, this is going to give me the game object, but what I also want is I want the actual index. So I'm also going to create another function that's not only going to give me the game object, but it's going to give me the node's index inside of my array. So, and I'm going to call this function get index for Link closest node. All right, that's kind of long-winded. And what am I going to do with that? Well, I'm going to pass inside of it Link's closest node, the game object, and it's going to search through the array and find the one that matches up with it. All right, so now I have to create these two beasts, these two very, very long names. So let's go and create Link's closest node game object first. Oh, I just thought of something else. I'm also going to want to, inside of awake, I want to initialize the villain node game object array. So I'm going to go and get this guy and paste that inside of there. And that's going to be equal to get all of the nodes that match this, all I do is go game object dot find game objects with tag, and then pass in villain node, because that's what all of them are called. All right, so that was very easy. So now I have an array of all the game object nodes. So now what I need to do is create Link's closest node game object. So I'm going to come down here and let's go after update. And this is going to return a game object, obviously, and throw it with this in. Whoops, it's not called that. What did I call it? I forget what I called it. I called it Link's closest node game object. All right, so let's go and get that. Come back down here. Where did I do it? There we are. So there we go. Link's closest node game object. And I am, you know what? In hindsight, I'm going to just change this and come back up inside of here and get rid of this. All right. A little bit long-winded. All right, so Link's closest node. And then we're going to come down here. So go and create that. So what's this function going to do for us? Well, it is going to, first off, obviously, it's going to return the game object. And I'm going to call that closest node game object. And it's going to start off with a value of null. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cycle through all of my villain node game objects. So I'm going to use for each to do that. And game objects are what I'm going to be getting back. So game object, and I'll just call this node game object in, and villain nodes game objects is the name of that. That's spelled incorrectly. Let's fix that. And let's go and fix the other one, villain node game object. So, yep, spelled it wrong there also. And this is the problem whenever you are writing stuff out of your head, you make a couple more mistakes, but that's okay. I think it's beneficial. So, let's come in and we got all those set up and for each. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if closest node game object is equal to null. I'm going to check if it doesn't have a value. In that situation, I'm going to say closest node game object is equal to whatever the first game object is, because we will then, go down from there. So, okay, so we have that set up, and I know I'm not working with null values, which is good. Then I'm going to say if vector 3, and I can check the distance between link as well as my my nodes. So I'm going to say vector 3 distance link game object transform position, and I'm going to say do the same thing with the node game object. So node game object dot transform position. There's something else I don't believe I have ever covered. And come outside of that, less than or equal to, and then I'll say vector 3 distance, and once again, link game object transform and position. This is too much busyness here. Link transform position, say like that. Want to make sure that you can see everything here. So I'm checking the link's game object transform position, and I'm getting the distance between it and the current node that we are checking inside of our array. And then I'm seeing if that is less than or equal to link's current position. And let's go and do another one of these. Then I'm going to say closest, the previous closest game object transform. Come on, stop giving me that. And position. One negative to doing these, the text so large, is the pop-up, the code completion is really big too. All right, so that's pretty simple and straightforward. I'm just cycling through every single item in there and seeing which is the closest link. And then after I do that for all of the nodes, then I will get my final closest node game object returned. All right, so good stuff. What else am I going to need to do? Well, I'm going to need to get the index for said game object. So let's go and create that guy. And what was that called? Get index for something. Let's go up here and look. Get index for link's closest node. All right, so come back down here once again and create it. And this is going to return an int. So get index for link's closest node. It's going to be passed a game object that I am going to call link's node game object inside of this. And then, basically, I'm just going to go int node index is going to be equal to 0. And I'm going to cycle through all of the villain nodes, and I'm going to look for a match with the position for the node. So I'm going to say int I is equal to 0, and I is less than or equal to, and here we'll say villain node, get upper bound, bound, and 0. And then I'll increment I, of course. And then to check each one of the items inside of there, I will say if links node game object, and inside the code, I'm going to put a couple little like debugging things just so you guys can, test everything further. And of course, all the code's in the description, and it's free. Sometimes people think I sell it. I don't sell anything. All right, so villain nodes, and again, I want to get the X value, so I'm going to go I and 0, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to do pretty much exactly the same thing for our Y. So let's go get this, come down here, and this is going to be the Y position, and this is going to be 1 inside of that array. And in a situation in which both of those are true, I'm going to say node index is equal to the match, and then after that, I'm going to say return node index. And I think that is all I need to do for all of the things that I wanted to do with this part of the tutorial. So I'm going to save it and jump back into Unity. All right, so every time I hit F, it is going to output in the console the index for whatever the closest node is. All right, so go like this. I'm going to go F. All right, and link's closest node is 10. Well, that's not right. Why are we getting that? Link's closest node is 10. Let's go move Link to like right here. And let's try F again. Link's closest node is 10. Okay, so there's an error. Let's jump over and look at the code. Oh, I see what I did. I forgot to come in here and assign the value for the lower game object. So closest node game object is going to be equal to the current node. Whoops, the node that matches that. So let's save it and let's go test it. Hey, here we are once again. Shut that off and start it up again and hit F. And Link's closest node is 0. Let's move him over to this node and hit F again. And it should be 1. Good. And now it should be 2 and F. And it is. And we can continue onwards. This should be 3. And it is. And you can see right there, 0, 1, 2, and 3. All right, so I think I covered a lot of things in this tutorial. So what I'm going to do, you can use this as homework for next time. What I'm going to do is leave you with this, and then in the next part of the tutorial, I will change it so that the villain will check where Link is, and then move towards Link, and then attack. All right, so please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.